Imagine you are in a classroom and the teacher walks into the classroom. Before they start the lesson, they get the names of all of the students in the classroom and they write their name on the board. And from the board at the front of the class, the teacher can reference any student, whether the student is seated in the front or seated in the middle of the class or seated at the back of the class. The teacher can just reference their name from the front of the class using the list of name written on the board. That's exactly, maybe not exactly, but that's how hoisting works in JavaScript. And just like the teacher, before the code runs, JavaScript does something very interesting and special. It goes through the code without going through the code, more like a skims through the code and take notes of the names of the variables and the functions, then write them at the top of the code. I don't know if it makes sense. So before the code runs, JavaScript goes through, looks through, and is like, okay, you are here, you are here, you are here, and kind of notes that at the top. So that's what the concept of hoisting is about. In more official terms, hoisting is a fundamental concept in JavaScript. It's a bit confusing though, but it's a mechanism where variable and function declaration are moved to the top of their containing scope. That is the scope where they are declared in. They are moved to the top of their containing scope during compilation. So hoisting then allows us to call or use a function or a variable before it is declared. With hoisting, you can access a variable or a function before its declaration line. Let's make sense of it in code. So we're going to test out hoisting with different keywords, with variables and with functions. And of course, you remember that with variables, we can declare our variables with 3 different keywords. I'm going to start with var. We have a variable greeting declare with var here. Var greeting equals to hello world. If I come down and I say console.log greeting, and I save and run my code, as expected, I would have my greeting logged, which is absolutely normal. I have declared my greeting here to be hello world. I am accessing it and I am seeing it in my console here, hello world. Perfect. But what if we try to access greeting before the line on which it was declared? What if I take this from here and I bring my variable declaration down and I come to access? Look at this. This is kind of like awkward because I'm just declaring this variable on line 5, but I'm already trying to access it on line 1. Let's try to see what that will give us. Node type. You can see it gives us undefined, but it doesn't give us an error. It's not telling us that I don't know what greeting is. The reason why we don't get an error is because JavaScript has hoisted this greeting variable to the top of this scope, right? And JavaScript already knows that greeting exists. What JavaScript does not know, as at this point, is the value that is in greeting. So variables declared with var are hoisted and they are initialized with a value of undefined. So if you declare a variable with var in a scope, you can access it anywhere in that scope, even before the declaration line, but it will be initialized with a value undefined. If I come and console.log greetings down here, as usual, I get my value, but from up there, I get undefined. Yes, JavaScript is literally telling you, okay, so you see the first console.log gave me undefined, and the second one, which is after the declaration, gave me my hello world. So what JavaScript is literally saying is that I can see you are calling greetings. I know greeting because I've seen greeting in the code. I have hoisted greeting to the top, but I do not have the value for greeting yet. So JavaScript gives it a value of undefined whenever you try to access a variable declared with var. It gets hoisted and it gets declared with an initial value of undefined. Now let's try to see hoisting with const. Let's try to see hoisting with const. Let me change this var keyword to const. We would definitely see a difference in the behavior when it comes to const. Let me clear. All right, node type. All right, so look at this. What do we have? It says console.log greetings, which is the first one. It says reference error, cannot access greeting before initialization. Interesting. JavaScript is not saying I don't know who greeting is. JavaScript is saying I know who greeting is, but I cannot access it before initialization. Basically, with const, JavaScript hoist variables with const and let. They are also hoisted like variables with var, but they are not initialized. This behavior creates there's a phrase called I don't know, is a term, TDZ. It's called a temporal dead zone in JavaScript. Maybe I'll make a video on it. So these variables are known, but they cannot be accessed until the line where they are declared. So greetings that I declared with const is hoisted. JavaScript knows that it exists. As at line 1, JavaScript already knows that greeting exists, but they are not initialized. So JavaScript cannot access it because it is not initialized. And the same thing goes for let. Variables declared with let are also hoisted, but they are not initialized. If I change this to let, I'm also going to get the same error. Let greetings. Let me clear this. Node type. So I get the same error, cannot access greeting before initialization. So like I said, they are indeed hoisted. So JavaScript knows that it exists, but JavaScript cannot, the variable is not yet initialized until it gets to the line where it is declared. So if I remove this, the first point of access, and I clear my terminal, and I run this again. Sorry, I didn't save my code. Let me play again. Node type. So yeah, because it has been initialized on line 5, I can now access it and get the value. But if I try to access it before it is initialized on line 5, I get an error from JavaScript saying, yes, I know that your variable exists. I have hoisted it to the top, but no, it has not been initialized, so I cannot access it or even give it a value at all. So don't forget, variables declared with var are hoisted to the top and they are initialized with a default value of undefined, but variables declared with let and const are also hoisted, but they are not initialized. Now let's look at functions. So let's look at functions. If I have a function, I have a function here, function say hello, that console.logs hello. If I try to call the function after the declaration, of course my function should work. If I run this, I should get my hello, my function should run, which is like the appropriate format. But let me try to access this function before it is initialized, before it is declared rather. Let's see if it also runs. Let me run this. Say node type. So functions are different with hoisting. With hoisting, functions are hoisted to the top along with the code, not just the name. Oh, everything, the logic inside is also hoisted to the top. So if you like, go and declare your function on line 1000. As far as it is in that global scope, if you try to access it on line 1 or on line 2, it will work. Are also hoisted in a similar way to let and const. Variables with let and const, they are hoisted to the top, but they are not initialized, so they cannot be accessed before the line of initialization. So if you try to reference a class before the line on which they are declared, you get a reference error saying that you cannot access it before initialization. We have a class car here. If I try to access this class car and I say const my car equals new car Ford. I actually do not know cars, but let me clear this and run this. You would see that we would get an error, a similar error to the ones we got with let and const. And that error will be that I cannot access car before initialization. You cannot access car before initialization. But if I bring this down here, after initialization, I try to access it and I say console.log my car. Let me clear, or let me just type node type. You see, I get my car because I am trying to access this after it has been initialized. But if I bring it to the top here, it will be hoisted, correct. JavaScript will know that it exists, but it is not initialized, so I cannot use it from up there. However, functions are hoisted with their logic. If it was a function, I can use it from anywhere because it's initialized already. If it was a variable declared with var, I can call it even though it is initialized with a value undefined, but I can still call it. But when it's a variable declared with let const or is a class, yes, it will be hoisted, but it cannot be accessed because it will not be initialized. And also, you have to be conscious of the fact that scoping matters in hoisting. Hoisting happens within the scope. So the values, the variables, the function, the classes, they are hoisted to the top of their scope. For example, I have a function here. If I declare a variable, say let age equals 30 inside of this function, this variable age is equals 30 is hoisted to the top of this function, not to the top of the global scope. It will be hoisted to the top of the function, not to the top of the global scope. So this is where I can access it. I cannot come here. If I come here and I say console.log age, usually we would get this function cannot be accessed because it's not initialized. Here we will get a different error because outside of this scope, we don't even know age at all. So age is hoisted to the top of this function scope, not to the top of the global scope as a whole. So if I run node type, you see I get an error, age is not defined. That means JavaScript does not know age at all. That's because age is being declared inside a different scope. But if I bring this here, my error will change. If I bring it to the top of this scope and I save, let me clear this and say node type. Okay. Okay, sorry, I'm not running the function. Let me run the function, say hello. So let's save it. If I run node type here, you can see I get a different kind of error. As opposed to earlier when I got age is not defined. This time around, JavaScript is saying, yes, I know that age is defined. That's because you are calling it inside the scope. It is always hoisted in the scope, not outside of the scope. Now it's saying that cannot access age before initialization. You already know what that means. It means that JavaScript is telling you that I know that age exists, I know age, but I cannot access it before the line you declared it on. But you know that if this is var, we're going to be able to access the value, but it will have a value of undefined. So that's basically how scoping also affects hoisting. Hoisting occurs within the scope, the variable, the value, the class. It is hoisted to the top of its scope. If it is declared within the global scope, it is hoisted to the top of the global scope. If it is declared within a local scope, it is hoisted to the top of the local scope. So to sum it up, hoisting in JavaScript is just JavaScript default behavior of moving declarations to the top of their scope way before it executes the code. And don't forget, variables declared with var are hoisted to the top of their scope and they are initialized with a value undefined. Variables declared with let and const are also hoisted, but they are not initialized at all. And classes are hoisted and they are also not initialized until the line where they are declared is reached, just like in let and const. While functions, on the other hand, are hoisted with their declaration, with their definition, with their logic. So you can call them from anywhere in the scope where they are defined in. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned one or two. Please like, subscribe, drop comment, turn on notification for more tech and coding content. See you in my next video. Bye.